This is the DeMaio Show. We are giving you the story behind the story. We're fighting to take back our state for a better California. In the past week, I was on the Headline News Network. It used to be the sister station of CNN, but they're under different management, owned by the same company, but under different management, which is the only reason why I was willing to go on Headline News. But the topic was on a report I was involved with. As you know, when I was chairman of Reform California, we issued a report on a rat epidemic, an epidemic of rats, an infestation of rats that is hitting our cities in California. And nobody likes rats, right? Well, in the state of California, apparently the politicians are okay with rats. But what our report highlighted was the fact that we have an infestation of rats in California cities. It's not just in the cities. It's actually out in the agricultural areas as well. And the reason why is twofold. Number one, the politicians and government bureaucrats don't want to do effective rat control, rodent control. They don't want to use best practices for removing rodents, killing rodents. They are vermin, by the way. They don't like the use of rodenticides. And the rodenticides, also known as rat poison, are inside boxes, traps, baits that rats go and they eat the rodenticides, and then they die. The environmentalists say, "Ooh, rat poison can be dangerous, scary." The term rat poison scares us, so let's not do that. They also say that rats are animals too, and what we should do is humanely trap them and then release them somewhere else. These people nuts? Anyway, that's one of the reasons is that we're not controlling the rat population because they're banning rat poison or rodenticides. But secondly, we have an explosion of the homeless population in California. And of course, everybody knows about that. We're seeing it. We're witnessing it. We're smelling it. Every day when we go out and go downtown or go to the beach, we see the homeless population getting a bit larger and larger. Now, I was on Headline News, and I'm going to play the segment for you. It's pretty short, and then I'll tell you what the reaction was on the internet to people after I finished the segment. Listen in.
30,000 people are homeless in a city like Los Angeles. That's like a city within a city. Why is it so bad, and what do you think needs to be done about it?
Well, the rat population has increased, as you noted, because there's an easier source of food because the homeless individuals are on the streets and they have the food with them out there, not secured. And we've also seen the state of California, both local governments and state government agencies are moving away from the effective rodent control best practices, rodenticides. They say that they want to trap rodents and then release them somewhere else. Well, it's led to a doubling of the rat population in the cities that we surveyed. And we saw not only an increase in service requests for rat removal, but also an increase in the number of rat droppings on site visits, as well as rat activity during the day. Rodents are nocturnal animals, and when they are out trying to get food during the day, what it suggests is that the population is overpopulated. All this has contributed to, as your other guest noted, the disease being transmitted not through rat bites, but through the fleas that hang out on rats, and then they go and they bite other animals, including human beings. So we are risking a public health crisis in California because of the negligence of politicians in not removing rats and in not dealing with the homeless crisis and allowing it to literally get to an epidemic proportion itself.
Well, and we're talking things like the plague. We're talking typhus. I mean, this is not a Game of Thrones episode. This is 2019. So what do officials there need to do? Where do you put these 30,000 people? It's not like you can just, send them into a hotel.
Right. Look, homelessness is a mental health and a substance abuse problem masquerading as a housing problem. The reality is this: the individuals who are homeless by choice. They do not want to follow rules in our homeless shelters. We do have an abundance of beds at our homeless shelters. The problem is that we require that you not use drugs and that you not lash out at your fellow residents. And so what we're seeing is that the police have been told stop enforcing vagrancy laws, panhandling laws, public encampment, public urination, or public defecation laws. What we need to do is use tough love to break the cycle of homelessness, to get treatment for these individuals. They won't accept the treatment at first, but over a period of time, we will be able to help these individuals. California needs to have a tough love approach, or the homeless crisis will continue to grow.
And this isn't just happening in Los Angeles. We've done multiple stories of homeless issues, even here in Atlanta. I mean, Liz, the cost of housing in LA is insane. I mean, what's it like to be a resident where you could possibly get typhus, but you're paying $5 million for a house?
Well, I am a resident.
No, this
of
is
Los
not
Angeles.
it's not a housing issue. I could tell you this again. It's not a housing issue. Yes, housing is expensive, no doubt. But these are individuals who have mental health problems, substance abuse problems. They can't hold a job because they will refuse to stay off of the drugs that they're on. They are tardy. There's no desire for them to get a job. And so what we need to do is say, look, you cannot sleep on the street. There is a bed for you at the shelter, but that requires that you also go clean and sober. And it's time that we fight for these human beings. We recognize everyone who's on the streets in San Francisco, Los Angeles, or San Diego is there because their family wasn't able to get through to them. And so now they're a lost soul.
And one of the other things, there are only 9,000 shelters there in Los Angeles. Liz, final thoughts as you are continuing to battle typhus. What is it like to be a resident of Los Angeles?
I'm a resident, I'm a property owner, and I'm an employee. I'm a third-generation Angelino. I care very much about what happens in Los Angeles and what is happening in Los Angeles. And Mr. DeMaio is correct. It's not just a housing crisis. It's a very complicated issue. But as the city is dealing with this complicated issue, it needs to keep the streets clean and sanitary. As they are dealing with this complicated issue, they need to keep the streets free of rotting food and free of raw sewage. And they have that duty not only to us, not only to the business owners and the residents and the employees, but they have that duty to the people that are forced to live on the street through whatever reason.
Yeah,
they need to keep the streets clean and sanitary.
Okay, so that's the segment. And you saw that Los Angeles deputy city attorney who was bit by a flea that picked up a disease from rats around City Hall. She's suing the city. She agrees with me. She's probably a Democrat, by the way. She agrees with me that we need to do something about this. But after the segment aired, I was inundated with emails and tweets and Facebook messages. 90% of them are very supportive, saying thank you for highlighting this issue, thank you for fighting, thank you for pointing this out, this is unbelievable, okay, all the accolades. But there were a good number of haters, and what they said was, how dare you say that homeless are mentally ill or that they're a bunch of drunkards or druggies? That's just not true. It's because of the housing issue. Oh, please, let's just look at the facts. Even if we had affordable housing in California, and I'm not saying we don't have an affordable housing crisis, we do, because we're not building enough, and the regulations are too expensive to build houses out here. But even if we made housing perfectly affordable, we'd still have a homeless crisis in California. And the reason why is that the people who are homeless cannot get and hold a job. Some of them do have jobs. I call them the upper class homeless. They are ones that, and they're about 10% of the homeless population are economically disadvantaged. They are ones that may have an issue with the cost of housing. Typically, they're in transition. They broke up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They no longer have a place to stay, but they do have a job, so they're trying to figure out how they can save up money for their down payment or their deposit to get themselves into an apartment, etc. Typically, they're on the streets or living in a car for just a short period of time, a couple weeks. But the chronic homeless, those are the people I'm talking about. 90% of the homeless population are what we call chronically homeless, in that they are on the street for months and months or years in some cases.